We've got the first information for Yahoo for fantasy basketball. The rankings are out. Leagues are open. Let's dive in. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and I also like catfish and spaghetti. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free and we're available on all platforms. All right, Yahoo opened up leagues yesterday. You can't do mock drafts yet. You can set up new leagues. Apparently, there was some issues with trying to organize times of drafts. I believe that's been rectified. And this is what I like to do at this point of the year. I'm not going to go through and hyper-focus and tell you sleepers or anything like that, because this stuff, I'm telling you, it's going to change. What I do want to do is go through the top 24 players, some guys that I see as too high and too low at this early stage, just so we get an understanding or a calibration of where things are, but also what do these things mean? Okay, when you go into Yahoo, okay, we'll start the show now. Go. When you go into Yahoo to start off, it asks and just create a league. It does this thing which it did last season, and it annoys the hell out of me. It defaults to making you create a points league. Right? On that option screen, it gives you the options: points, roto, category leagues, and it says your default is points league, and it goes. The next option is category leagues, which it then highlights and says this is the most popular format. So, it's not even opaque in any degree of what they're trying to do. They go, we know you like this. We know this is the most popular format, but please play our other format. And that's not to say points is bad. It's just very strange the way that they are moving towards it. They go, hey, we know it's popular, but how about no? So just be aware of that. When you go create a league, you're not defaulted to the most popular setting. You're defaulted to what they're trying to push you towards, which is 10-team points leagues, for whatever reason. I know what the reason is, but that's what they're doing. All right, so just be aware of that. The next part of these things, Yahoo, and they do this often, they put out multiple sets of rankings, but not in the way that you would hope, not in the way that would make sense. And let me explain that. If you go into a league and you click on this setting that says, edit my pre-draft rankings, you will get some insane things. I believe that those numbers are set up based on your individual league settings, and they've worked off whatever projections they've got, because they are crazy. They have Derek White sitting at 9. They have probably the most insane ranking I've ever seen in my life. The Hong Kong mattress, Cason Wallace, is ranked at 24. Bro. Would I be editing my pre-draft rankings to get Cason Wallace out of 24? Yeah, of course I would. Right? That is insane. If I had have set my league up to be a points league, those pre-draft rankings would look different based on projected points. That is based on projected 9-cat, I'm going to guess, totals value. You've got Giannis in the 60s, Zion in the 90s, right? Things which are clearly insane and are clearly garbage in terms of how you're looking at those rankings. So if you go to that edit pre-draft rankings, your list is going to look crazy. If you go to their page, their player page, which has X rank on it, or preseason rank, however you want to, I think it's just called preseason rank, the list is different. And this is where, I have an issue with it. Because the list they put out there is a nondescript list. It's here's a list of guys. Okay. For what, though? Because it's trying to meld, not roto, because they don't care about roto. It's trying to meld the most popular format, categories, and points together, and it just gives you this list. It doesn't tell you that that's what it's trying to do, but I'm telling you what it's trying to do. That's the list we're going to go through, because that's the list you're going to see in drafts. Because when you get into drafts, you have 3 columns. You have X rank, you have rank, which is the Cason Wallace at 24, and then you have the ADP. Most people will either sort by X rank or they'll sort by ADP, most likely. So we're going to talk about that X rank list here and talk about why it happens. Because, again, part of the way, especially if you're new to fantasy, of deciphering how these rankings look and work is understanding what the hell they are to begin with. And the X rank ones are based on vibes. Bad vibes, but they're based on vibes. They're not based on any sort of projections. They're based on vibes. And you'll see what I mean in a sec when we get into talk about this, because we might as well just go through the top 24 now. I'm not gonna do in-depth breakdowns of all these players right here. It's just more of like an initial look to see where we're at. At number 1, they do have Nikola Jokic. Yahoo's default playoff schedule, though, remember, has Jokic with a 3-4-2 schedule with 2 games in finals week. You might think that that is not a big deal. Okay. You might think that that is enough to take Jokic away from top spot. Also, I think that's totally reasonable to think that. Jokic was great last season. I also expect some significant decline because I don't think he's playing 37 minutes or shooting 42% from 3 or averaging a triple-double or getting 1.8 steals. Pair that with the 2-game finals week, you've got decisions to make. But whatever. They've got Giannis at 2. And you would say, okay, Giannis is at 2. On the edit pre-draft ranks page, he's at 60-odd or 55. Incongruity there. In a points league, Giannis at 2 is totally okay. Honestly, in a category league, Giannis in the top 5 makes complete sense to me. But that is why he is there. That is why he's at 2, because he's got points league value, and then people are punting things. I've got no problem with Giannis at 2. Number 3 is Victor Wembanyama. I've got no problem if Wemby was at 1 or 2 or 3. I think it's pretty clear to me that the top 2 is going to be Wembanyama and Jokic, and I'm certain Giannis is going to be 5 in most leagues. At number 4, they've got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and number 5 is Luka Doncic. Remembering, if you use my default playoff settings, Shai has a 3-3-3 playoff schedule. Not as bad as a 2-game week like Jokic, but still not ideal. And in that setting, maybe you want to switch Jokic and Doncic around. But overall, the top 5 is the same top 5 that I have. The order's a little bit different, but it's fine. Now you get to the question of, okay, Anthony Edwards is at 6. And you go, all right, okay. Is Anthony Edwards worthy of that? Not really. Right? Not really. But also, it doesn't matter. Because we can have this idea of like, oh, there's no one who's actually worth being a first rounder, but that's just not going to be the case. Because by definition, if you finish inside the top 12, you are a first rounder. So if they're not the traditional sort of first round player, it doesn't matter. I don't love Anthony Edwards there at number 6. I think it's okay to have him in that position. At some point, he will miss games. I guarantee you this. He will not be able to sustain health forever. It's not real. He will miss games at some point. And there's a chance that he doesn't hit 40% from 3, and then things look a lot different for him this season. But I got no problem with having Anthony Edwards at 6. I have him pretty close to that, to be honest. I've got him around 8. I think it's okay. And that's your top 6. Top 5, pretty settled. Like, no complaints. At number 7, we've got Cade Cunningham. Also, like, I'm not that far off on that. I've got him 8th in points leagues. Okay. Fine. I got him 10th in category leagues. Totally cool. I'm all right with this. It's all totally good. Anthony Davis comes in at number 8. Bang on. Totally fine. Obviously, injury risk is a part of this. I know that. I don't like Karl Anthony Towns sitting there at number 9. I'm not that out on Towns, but I do think that this season is going to be worse for him. I think the minutes might drop. I think he might play at the 4 more, which we know drops field goal percentage and rebounds for him. Under a new coach, Mike Brown. I think that'll happen. Therefore, I don't think that Towns at 9 is the right pick. I really dislike Domantas Sabonis at 10. I don't understand that really at all. I've got him outside the top 35, to be honest, in category leagues. I've got him 20th in points leagues. At 10, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't get it. Trae Young comes in next. At 11, I think that for points leagues, that is bang on for Trae. I think for category leagues, it's marginally too high. Yes, I know that his free throw percentage and his assists are quite solid. If I am going to stick to my idea of the way that I think rankings can skew things and look at my Durant for Trae Young, it puts him lower than this, and that's okay as well. And I know people are going to have an issue with the next one at number 12. It's Paolo Banchero. But this is where, again, understanding what this X rank means is. This is for points leagues. That ranking is for points leagues. Paolo is a borderline first-round player in a points league. In a category league, he's not as bad as you think. I know there'll be people who say he's the 90th ranked player. Not true. I think he's a top 50 player pretty comfortably in a category league, but he's not 12th. And that one there is one of the big sort of trip over points that if you're not aware of what it is, it can cause you some issues when you're looking at your rankings. We'll come back and look at the rest of the top 24 as well, some other too high and too low guys in a sec. Today's episode, though, is brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all of their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks and property or investments. If you don't have that full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That is why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you, so you can link all of your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That is 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONNBA. All right, so we just had a look at the top 12 players for Yahoo for fantasy for their pre-rank X ranks. Again, these will change. ADP will be something that's a part of it, and you have to understand where these numbers come from. At number 13, Devin Booker sits there. I think Booker's going to have a very strong season. I think that this is absolutely totally bang on, and if you wanted to move Devin Booker ahead of Paolo Banchero, you should in category leagues. If you wanted to move Devin Booker ahead of Trae Young, I'm okay with it. If you wanted to move Devin Booker ahead of Karl Anthony Towns, totally cool. If you wanted to move ahead of Domantas Sabonis, knock yourself out. I can see Booker moving as high as 9. I could see that being something. And you say he's not worth the first round. It doesn't matter. He is if you think he's the 9th best player. That's as simple as that is. This next one is a tough one. Tyrese Maxey. He is at 14. I don't have him ranked at 14. And the reason that I don't have him projected at 14 is very simple. I do projections. I project every player, or 550 players, or whatever it is in the NBA, and their stats, trying to make a guess on minutes and games played and balance all the numbers. If Tyrese Maxey is in a situation again where Joel Embiid plays 20 games and Paul George plays 40 games, he will be okay here. Although, we saw down the stretch of last season that when those guys were out, we saw efficiency drop off. If Embiid plays 50 and George plays 50, well, he's not going to make this number up. Simple as that. In the 200 or almost 300 minutes that Maxey, Embiid, and George played last season together, Embiid had a 36% usage, Maxey's was under 24. Maxey's usage for the season was about 28. Meaning, obviously you could extrapolate that in the games and the times that he wasn't on the court with Embiid and George, that he was getting 30, 31 usage routinely. So if you think that Embiid's playing 31 minutes, or 31 games, or 24 games, Maxey's going to have a lot more to do. If you think Embiid can struggle through to 50 games, well, Maxey will not make up this number. I am not touching Joel Embiid. I find it impossible to project him at only 25. But that's where we get the difficulty in making that decision there. I think James Harden coming in at number 15 just doesn't make a lot of sense. I've got Harden as a top 10 player, not for points leagues, but for category leagues. For points leagues, and this is about the right spot. And yes, it will be different for Harden this season with Collins and with Beal, but more importantly with a full season of Kawhi. I still think it's a little bit low. It's not egregious, but it's a little bit low. At number 16, you've got the Bronco Jalen Williams. To me, it's too high. I like what Jalen Williams does. I like Jalen Williams as a player. He does a lot of good things. There are times where he can be overrated. A lot of the stuff that he did that was incredibly good for his fantasy value last season did come in the stretch where he was playing at center because Chet and Hartenstein were out. So his block numbers went through the roof. His rebound numbers went through the roof. And then it didn't last at that number. For example, his numbers are fine, but they're not top 20 numbers. And they weren't last season. And they were boosted by that, whatever it was, 2-month run, 6-week run of him being the center. And he won't be that. So I do think as much as we might love Jalen Williams, that at 16, there's an argument it's too high. LaMelo Ball at 17, well, I think there's a chance per game he is better than this. Maybe not points, but categories. But obviously there is the ankle stuff. And I don't think that he's destined to never play games. It is risky. I would like to push it further down, to be honest. Next, we have Jalen Johnson. And I'm not going to argue with it. I think it's bang on. He's at 18. I've got him around that 21, 22 mark for categories and points. I think it's bang on. Yes, Porzingis is arriving. But I actually don't think it matters a huge amount. I think Jalen at 18 is pretty spot on. We start a run of Jalen's here because at number 19, it's Jalen Brunson. And I don't like that. Brunson is in a situation where surely he is not playing as much as he did last season. Surely. And even last season, he was not worth this spot. He just wasn't this good. With Towns there, he wasn't able to produce at that level. It just isn't something that happened. So I don't really understand him being in this spot. I think he's probably going to be better in points than in categories. But he was not this spot last season. This is too high. Jaylen Brown comes in next at number 20. And it is very easy to say Jaylen Brown will be great without Jason Tatum. Sure, maybe. I think he's going to increase his scoring, yes. Will that help his efficiency or hurt it? Will it mean that he gets big defensive stats or his rebounds or assists spike? I think his assists will, but I'm not sure about the other stuff. And I'm very worried about what happens coming off knee surgery on a team that is tanking. What is he doing in March and April? I would not want to spend a top 20 pick on Jaylen Brown in a million years. At number 21, De'Aaron Fox. Also, based on the way I'm projecting this, there's no way this is happening. He's the number 2 guy, yes. Victor Wembanyama is the number 1. But you still have other players like Harper, like Castle, like Vassell. My projections just do not place him anywhere near this for categories or for points. Not interested in him here. I think LeBron is pretty bang on. It might be marginally high, but whatever, it's LeBron. The next one is Alperen Şengün. As much as I like Şengün, I think he's got real fantasy value. It's a little bit on the high side, at least for categories. I do think there is some risk, given the way the Rockets have structured their roster, that there are games when he doesn't play 32 minutes, he plays 30. And Steven Adams is in there, and Jabari Smith is in there, and there's more Kevin Durant, there's Tari Eason. So I don't love him at that spot, but I do love the last player in the top 24, and that's Evan Mobley. Not Kaysen Wallace, Evan Mobley. I think Mobley in this spot makes a ton of sense. I'm not sure there's a gigantic upside in it, but I don't think there's really any downside in it. He played limited minutes last season. So even if he has limited minutes this season, I think we're all right. I think he could do more with some of his shooting. And if they decide to push 1 to 2 extra minutes onto him or more minutes at center, then it goes higher. So I feel really strongly that that is a solid spot to have him. Yeah, the guys after Mobley, you got 25 is Scotty Barnes, 26 Steph Curry, way too low. Siakam, Don Mitchell, Zubac, Holmgren. That's where we go from there. So what we're going to do now to finish this off is talk about 12 guys who I think are rated too highly and 12 guys who I think are rated too low on these Yahoo rankings. As we bring this in, this is very early. This stuff will be changed and adjusted, and it'll be interesting to see when that happens and how it looks when it happens. I think that Ivica Zubac, who, when I went back to look at this show that I did last season, the initial Yahoo rankings, Zubac came out at 110. I went, ooh, what are we doing? That is way too low. He should be much higher. And he clearly outperformed that value. And now he's at 29, which is just not good value at all. It's not. Because not only does he not have Mo Bamba as his backup, he's got Brook Lopez, a bloody good player who's a starting caliber player. And if they ever decide to go small, Nick Batum and John Collins can play center too. So I'm not saying that Zubac is going to be bad. I'm just saying that what he did last season is probably unlikely to repeat. And therefore taking him at 29 takes any upside away, and it's just not good value. I don't like Chet at 30 either. Chet is going to share the court with Hartenstein. Again, Chet was fine last season. He was solid. He probably does play some more minutes, but they're also going to be incredibly cautious with Holmgren after the injury. So I just, at this spot, I would rather take him round 4, maybe 5, versus this area here. Number 31 is Franz Wagner. Shot under 30% from 3 for the second straight year. Now Desmond Bane arrives. Most of Franz's big numbers came because Paolo was out. Remember, there was a large part of that, and he was great. But Paolo's not out. He might be out, but he's not. I think this is more a guy that I'd look at in round 4 or round 5. Probably round 5, honestly. But not here. Number 41 is Lauri Markkanen. Lauri Markkanen might be carving it up at Eurobasket and all these warm-up games. Cool, that's okay. I'm telling you now, the Jazz are going to tank again. They are going to be bad. Now, Lauri not only got dinged with fake injuries, but he just played bad. He was poor. Like, he just wasn't good. Now, I think he can improve from there, but I'm not willing to do this. No way. Not in categories, not in points. This is just not one that I would do. And same as the guy ranked directly after him, number 42, Des Bane. Bane is a really solid player. He's a great acquisition by Orlando. But he moves from a situation where in Memphis, for, let's say, half of the season, he was the number 1 option. It was him and Jaren Jackson sort of co-number 1s. Because Ja Morant missed all that time. The year before, Ja Morant missed all that time. This season, I think he's clearly number 3, behind Franz and Paolo. And that means that things are going to drop off, I think. I'm not touching him here. I'm not touching Desmond Bane inside the top 50, honestly. It just, the situation doesn't look great for me. Number 46 is Josh Hart. And this is one of these ones where if you look at his 9-cat numbers from last season, it will tell you that he was a first-round player, which, of course, as you guys know watching this, is bullshit. He wasn't a first-round player. You would never consider him as a first-round guy, showing, again, the flaws of the rankings. So they've sort of tried to split the guts here straight down the middle and go, I guess 46 is fine. It's not. I don't think that Josh Hart should be taken inside the top 75, honestly. He had a gigantic spike in 2-point percentage. Maybe it holds. I don't know. Also, don't think he's playing 38 minutes a night. In fact, he might not even start. It's just a very risky pick with almost no upside value. So that's that little grouping of players that I think are too high. Number 53 is podcasting legend, Brooklyn hotel room guru, Michael Porter Jr., the poop cookie. He's at 53. And I think, I've been on record as saying this, I think that Michael Porter Jr. is going to have a better season than than Cam Johnson had in Brooklyn, because I think he's a better fantasy contributor. But at 53, no way. I don't know what this team's going to do down the stretch. I do. They're bad. They're going to be sitting guys. And while Porter should see an increase in usage, it could be one of those things where they're sort of managing minutes for periods of the season. In the 80s, sure, fine. Not here. Jarrett Allen at 55. I just did the Cavs preview yesterday. You heard me talk to Danny Cunningham about Jarrett Allen, the fact that his minutes dropped off as the season went on, and that they may be exploring more of these situations of Mobley at center, especially now they have more of a capable option in Larry Nance. At 55, there's no way. Also, Jarrett Allen played all 82 games last season, so Yahoo 9-cat total rankings will tell you he's much better than this. Just also to be clear, these too high rankings, I'm looking at it, for me, these players have to be, I have to consider them both too high in categories and in points leagues. There's not one of these, well, it's fine in points and it's bad in categories. But the way I'm doing this is we will do separate shows later on when we dive into it more. But these are just ones where I go, ooh, they're not, I don't like that. I don't like that for either. And this is not an exclusive list. I could have probably given you 30 names out of the top 100 that I think are at least a round too high. But I want to give you just some highlights here. I don't like DeMar DeRozan at number 60. Why? I think there's so much uncertainty around the King. You just keep hearing DeMar DeRozan's name. Is the Heat going to trade for him? What's he going to do? Like, we're still in a situation where Levine is there. You got Sabonis there. Are they bringing in Kuminga? Is DeRozan coming off the bench? Well, what are we doing? 60 is not, it's not egregious. My projections do not like him at all. They do not like what DeMar DeRozan is going to do in Sacramento, and I'm going to side with that. At 71, Andrew Nembhard. Now, I know there's a level of hype about Nembhard because Tyrese is out. Also, remember, in the games that Tyrese has been out, Nembhard hasn't been that good. He's been fine, but he hasn't been that good. He hasn't really shown a usage ramp up. He hasn't shown an ability to shoot in the regular season for whatever reason, as we talked about in the Pacers show with Tony East the other day. I like Nembhard. I like drafting him. He should be drafted. And the mock I did the other day, I think he went in the 90s, which is fine. It's good value. At 71, I don't think I like it. Number 85 is Malik Monk. If Malik Monk was starting and playing 32 minutes a night, bang, love it. But I don't think he is. I don't think he's going to play on this team. Maybe he goes to Golden State and starts. I don't know. It's too much uncertainty for me to have Malik Monk at 85, because otherwise he's coming off the bench behind Levine and Schroeder, sharing time with Keon Ellis and even giving minutes to Devin Carter. I see no way that this makes any sense. Number 98 is Keontae George. Year 3 for guards is often a big year. Year 3 for any young player is a big year. Keontae is not even guaranteed to start. I don't mind taking Keontae 120. Let's see what happens. I think I took him in my mock draft. 98 feels too high. Because I guess there's a chance that Ace Bailey starts the 2. I don't like that. Is there a chance that Walter Clayton takes Keontae George's minutes? Maybe. George really sputtered last season. So I'm not investing a top 100 pick in him. I just don't think that makes any sense to me. Now I want to talk about 12 guys who I think are just not pushed high enough. And some of the names you'll think are weird for me to mention. You might even think it's hypocritical, but it's not. At number 35, it's Amen Thompson. My projections love Amen Thompson for this season. Absolutely love Amen Thompson for this season. They put him quite high. Now, I would not take Amen Thompson in round 1. In round 2, I understand that there might be some appeal to that. I think that's not too bad. I don't mind it towards the end of round 1. Him at 35 just seems off. I think he's going to have a role large enough with enough production to be a top 20 player in either format. So 35 feels like a little bit of a steal. Now, this is where I think that you'll say, Josh, you're being hypocritical. Josh Giddey sits at 37 on Yahoo's list. What Josh Giddey did at the end of last season, where he was a top 5 guy, I said many times was not real. He was shooting 47% from 3. His steal rate was through the roof. His block rate was through the roof. His rebounds were up 25%. His free throw attempts were up as well. And it was in March, April basketball where 70% of the teams weren't prioritizing game planning or winning either through resting, preservation, or tanking. But the Bulls moved off of Lonzo Ball. I'm assuming that Giddey is back and starting on this team. And I've projected him relatively conservatively, I think, overall for his production. But he comes out better than this. I think he's a guy that you can take at the back end of round 2, like at the latest. And again, it sounds hypocritical, but it's based on the numbers. I don't think that Josh Giddey is going to be in this role as a long-term thing. I don't think any team wants Josh Giddey to be the guy driving everything because then they will go nowhere. He can put up numbers, but I don't think it's a long-term viable solution. But for this season, I think it is. And I don't think he's as good as last season. And I think there's a huge drop from some of the things that happened. But down to 37 is too far. The same with Denny Avdia. He's at 62. Denny Avdia had an incredibly strong fake March, April. And by fake, you know what I mean. A lot of the games don't matter then. It doesn't matter that his team was trying. What were the other teams doing? Plus, Jeremy Grant was out. DeAndre Ayton was out. Simons was in and out. Now, a lot of these guys have been traded, and the way that they've structured their roster this season does provide more for Avdia. Now, their lineup is still not settled. They've got 7 starters. I expect that Avdia starts, but also he did not start last season, and Jeremy Grant has not come off the bench once in Portland. So I don't know exactly what's going to happen there. I expect that Denny starts, but I also don't expect that he does all the things that he did down the stretch last season. Still, him at 62 is just way too low. It's way too low. I'm much higher than Denny in this, in points and categories. I think he's like a round 3 guy. Number 73 is Miles Turner. One of these guys that's either constantly underrated or overrated. There are times when Miles has come in as a top 15 player because of blocks. I go, but that's not real, don't do that. But a 73 is pretty silly to me. He's a very clear, like where Jarrett Allen was going at 55, Miles Turner, that's who I want. Number 90 is, Mark Williams. Now, Mark Williams, on a per-game basis, will destroy this number. I'm very confident he will smash this number. Guess who I'm not worried about taking his minutes? Nick Richards. BDNR. I'm not worried about Come On My Watch. Not worried. The only thing I'm worried about is Mark Williams' health. He will cook this number. He will cook it per game. It's all about your level of health. And when you get to 90, I don't really care that much. I'll take him. I'll take him to 70. I'll take him to 60. No, I don't really care that much at that spot. And then another center right after him, Jakob Poeltl at 91. Why are we putting Poeltl there? Who is the backup that's challenging Poeltl after that gigantic, ridiculous extension they gave him? Why is he just pushed down this low? Like, I don't really understand that one. And even in points leagues, I think that's too low for Poeltl. I think he's like a top 60 points league guy. I think he's a top 60 category league guy. I don't really get that. The last 6 names. Peyton Pritchard's at 94. Now, I don't know whether this is true or not. It seemed relatively serious that the report is that Pritchard will start and Anthony Simons will come off the bench. But I do know this. The Celtics are every day trying to trade Simons away. I'm not sure it makes a lot of sense for them to start Pritchard outside of some of the wording used in that article, which was like we want to reward him for being a long-term, a guy that improved and a long-term player at the club. All right. If Peyton Pritchard plays 32 minutes as a starter, like he smashes this number. I like that they've got him at 94. That's more aggressive than I thought they would be. I think we can go higher. I think Asar Thompson at 106 might even give you 40 spots of value. Now, I'm a little worried of JB Bickerstaff and maybe he plays he's on a minutes restriction lie that he did last season and you're worried about the shooting, but I'm in on him at this point. Like this is free money to me. Number 110, Zach Edey. The only concern here is he's not going to be ready to start the season. Otherwise, we saw Yasalo play Edey in a completely different role to Taylor Jenkins. I took him in the mock. You saw it. I love it. I took Matas Bazelis in the mock as well. I think Bazelis is the opening day starter for the Bulls. I think he plays 30 minutes most nights, if not more. Second year should see some improvements in a lot of his numbers. I think there is tremendous value in that as well. And then we have to go down this list because I don't like Kevin Porter Jr. I'm not sure if you're aware of that. I don't like him as a player. I hate watching him. He's at 243. He's the favorite to start at point guard. He should cook this number. It shouldn't be even close. And the next one is J Huff at 269. I don't know that J Huff is the starting center. I would guess he is with Isaiah Jackson coming in off the Achilles injury. But there's not 268 players who I'd want to draft ahead of J Huff. There's 100 players. There might be 130 players. But Huff should be drafted in all standard leagues, especially categories, but even in points leagues. And I don't think you should let him be down in this Kevin Porter zone here. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. What does make sense is that is my initial look at Yahoo's first lot of rankings. Understanding the edit pre-draft rankings are based on your league settings and they're wild. They make no sense. These lists are a vibes list. They're based on, I don't know, categories, points, maybe leaning points. Don't know. They don't tell you. But that's where that information is and where it comes from. So understanding what they've got and how we're trying to value this stuff as we develop our strategies over the coming weeks. Hit subscribe on the video and on the audio. You'll never miss anything if you do that. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.